Okay, just testing my audio. Test, test. Test, test, test. Now let's see. Audio for the actual thing itself. Nope, audio isn't coming through. Oh, I know.
So would it be fair to say that you can detain a suspect without them knowing why they're being detained?
Objection. This
Grounds.
calls for a legal analysis, not factually relevant.
No.
Sustained.
Okay, so hello guys. I'm gonna react to the Darrell Brooks trial. I've been following every single day, and pretty much the entire thing. I haven't even skipped out too much testimony. I wasn't sure if I was gonna live stream this or not. I mean, pretty early on, it seemed that this is some crazy shit going on here, and that this guy is not doing himself any favors, and it might actually be entertaining to cover this. So I guess that's what I'm going to do. And it got to the point where it got so ridiculous today on day 8 that I decided to start streaming it, and I will upload this to both YouTube and Rumble, and we'll see how it goes from there. Maybe you guys might be interested in it as well. Now, I'm not a lawyer or anything, so I'm just gonna provide my own commentary from my understanding of the legal jargon. Yeah, but without further ado, let's continue.
Us to the form of the question.
Objection. This
Grounds.
calls for a legal analysis, not factually relevant.
No.
Sustained us to the form of the question.
In case you don't know, Darrell Brooks is representing himself pro
Would it be
se.
fair to say you initially responded to the 500 block of Elizabeth because of a report of, I guess you would call it a trespassing report?
I would more put it under the heading of suspicious behavior.
You're going
Under the
around knocking from
circumstances.
door to door. That's suspicious as hell.
So is that why you were initially dispatched to that area for suspicious behavior?
Yes.
They're probably trying to locate the suspect, which is you. I mean, would they go overboard looking for a person just randomly knocking over doors in some quiet neighborhood in Waukesha? I don't think so.
And do you recall when you got the report of shots fired?
I believe that was one of the first things I heard over the radio before I was even there.
Do you recall ever finding out where the shots fired came from?
Eventually I did.
You better be more accurate in how you ask your questions, dude.
Do you recall in your reading report writing that when you had arrived at Elizabeth and West and parked your squad and began to walk down the street, that you had your firearm in your hand?
Yes?
And
Makes
was
sense.
that because of the call of shots fired, or did you feel unsafe at the time?
That's because there were shots fired and I did not know by whom.
Did you get a report of anyone hit by the shots?
At that time, no. I did not know one way or the other if anyone had been hurt.
Did you?
Had been hit. I knew people were hurt.
Do you recall the area of where the shots fired? Was that the general area?
The general area, somewhere in the vicinity of the parade.
When you hear shots, how would you know where it comes from? All you hear is a large bang that echoes from all over the place.
Is Elizabeth and West in the general area?
It's a few blocks away.
And you did state you didn't find any weapons on the suspect, right?
Correct.
Unless the sandwich was a
shell
weapon.
casings or?
No.
Do you have any reason to believe that the shots came from the suspect?
I did not know who had done shooting. I had heard a report.
I would
of shots
answer
fired.
yes.
I did not know by whom, as I've said, sir.
That's a reason to believe it might have
Any
come from
reason
the
to
suspect.
believe that the shots came from the suspect is what I'm asking.
There has
I
been
did not know.
there's been gunshots. There's a suspect. In this case, it happened to come from a cop, but it doesn't really matter. It's reasonable to assume that it came from a suspect.
And you stated that upon seeing the suspect on the porch, that they were gesturing.
Gesturing?
Gesturing!
Yes, sir.
He just said gesturing. This is part of the reason why I want to cover this trial. He just has the worst grammar issues ever, and it's kind of hilarious. So far, the only one who is gesturing is this guy.
And you also stated that in your written report that it was
This
in
cop
upper
gets the
30s
joke.
that evening with the brisk wind. Would that be fair to say?
It was
Pretty
upper
cold.
30s, lower 40s, somewhere right in there. It was cold. I was cold.
Do you think that maybe the gesturing was because the suspect was cold?
Gesturing.
Objection.
Grounds.
Calls for speculation.
Overruled. She may answer if she's able.
No, the
I
clown.
didn't know.
No, the suspect is just a jester in general. Actually, he's a fool. A jester is one level up above that. What does it say? Village of Big Bend Police Department. Oh, he's reading the police report.
And do you recall checking the general area around the house that you found a suspect?
Yes, sir.
Did you find anything around the house? I guess I'm referring to where you wrote in your report you checked the likely path of travel.
Did she?
Yes, sir, I do recall that. No, we did not find anything.
And do you recall checking the pockets of the coat worn by the suspect?
Yes.
Do you recall how the suspect obtained the coat?
I recall what I was told.
So it'd be fair to say you weren't sure if you were only told this information. That'd be fair to say?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
You made reference to saying you only know what you were told. So it'd be fair to say at that time you didn't know unless you were told.
That question is contradictory. She doesn't know what she only knows what she was told. So it's fair to say that she didn't know. No, that's not fair to say. She knew what she was told. So if she was told it, then she knew it. And he's asking if that means if being told and knowing something means that she didn't know something. This guy is a clown.
Didn't know what?
How did the suspect obtain the coat?
I asked the resident of the house you were at. Actually, I believe he volunteered to me that he had given you a coat to wear.
And you checked the pockets of the coat?
Yes,
And did you find anything?
I did not find anything.
Okay, now I can see chat as well. If there's gonna be if there's gonna be chat messages at all.
At what point did you learn that the suspect who was being detained would be arrested?
At some point later,
Once they confirmed your identity.
And it was another officer's vehicle that the suspect was placed in, correct?
correct.
And when did you leave that scene?
Not for hours.
Why so long?
A lot happened.
Because when there is a crime scene that potentially spans blocks, everything needs to be searched for evidence. Witnesses need to be located because once things are gone, things are gone.
Bro, you left carnage behind you. What do you expect? What kind of stupid question is that?
So it has to all be done right the first time.
Darrell appears to think that quantity matters over quality when it
Did
comes
you
to
write your
his
report
arguments.
that evening?
I believe I wrote it the next morning.
So it would be fair to say after you had learned a little bit more information, then you wrote the report?
That would be true, yes.
Would that affect how you wrote the report? And she's going to probably answer no, because she wrote the report true as to what she knew at the time, probably.
In the video, Exhibit 80, the suspect gave you his name, right?
That's correct.
Wait. He's saying the suspect gave you his name. But this entire court proceeding, he's been objecting to the use of his name Darrell Brooks, which is the exact same name he identified himself by to this officer. He called himself Darrell Brooks to this officer, but throughout the entire trial he's been objecting to the use of the name Darrell Brooks, claiming that he doesn't recognize that name, he objects to the use of the name, and that he doesn't know anybody by that name. Of course, it's not a proper objection, so the judge is allowing the witnesses to just run roughshod over those objections because they're not really objections, they're just him interrupting the prosecution. He's probably gonna play those shenanigans in a second.
Was that right when you handcuffed him, if you recall?
Right around that time, yes, sir.
Dude, you should prepare.
And did you talk to any other witnesses that evening besides the owner of the home
Probably.
that you saw the suspect?
No.
In the hours that you stayed on Elizabeth, did you talk to any other witnesses at all?
Asked and answered.
No, I looked through a few yards and
Checked for evidence.
mostly maintained a perimeter for a search.
Do you recall why you looked through a few yards?
Asked and answered.
Searching for evidence.
Do you recall what evidence you may have been searching for at that time?
Any evidence.
You know, a lot of times you don't know until you find it.
Anything. A lead. Anything. That's a stupid
So
question.
Do you recall what maybe you might have been looking for a weapon or anything like that?
Sure.
That would have gotten my attention, yes, absolutely.
Did you find any weapon?
No.
No, sir?
Doesn't matter. All this about a weapon not being found at the scene is retarded because nobody's claiming that he murdered people with a knife or a gun, but rather with a car, and that car was found, and there's plenty of evidence about the car. It's not doing him any favors that he's like insisting on asking every police officer about if any weapons were found. And you know what? The more he asks about it, the more I suspect that he actually did have a knife on him at the time, and he managed to ditch it while he was running away. I mean, otherwise I don't see why he would be so insistent in trying to make sure that everybody knows that he didn't have a weapon on him. Also, earlier today, a bunch of witnesses that have interacted with him during that day while he was going from door to door asking people to use their phones, all of them testified that the first thing he did when he encountered them was lift up his shirt to show that he's not armed in any way. And that is an odd behavior unless in your mind you would want them to know that you're not armed. Why would you care about them knowing if you're armed or not unless you were armed and gotten rid of the weapon, so now you have the opportunity to show people that you in fact don't have a weapon. I suspect he did have a weapon on him, but since it's not in evidence, I guess that can't really be held against him, even though it doesn't really matter because he didn't kill anybody with any weapon besides his vehicle.
Did you learn any knowledge of any ring video footage that evening?
I don't recall if I viewed the footage that evening or the following day. I did at some point view that ring footage, yes.
So you were aware that night that it was ring footage?
I believe I was aware of it that night. I don't believe I watched it, but I can't say with certainty.
That footage was damning as hell. Like there was footage
Do
from
you
him.
recall initially responding to Clinton Street and Broadway first?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall why you responded to that location first?
To see if I could help anyone.
About how long did you stay there before responding to Elizabeth?
Just a few minutes.
She must have had a rough day. Holy shit. Yeah, the footage from earlier was of him on somebody's porch asking to use his phone, and then of him getting arrested in front of that guy's porch. Now that guy whose footage it was a complete moron. He said that he felt no danger from the suspect because the suspect was polite throughout the entire encounter, which doesn't really tell you at all that the guy's not dangerous. He clearly was dangerous, so his politeness doesn't mean jack shit, does it?
No further questions.
All right, thank you. Any redirect?
Oh, wow.
Referring specifically
I think this is the first time he has not gone through his litany of sovereign citizen arguments. The first time ever since the beginning of the trial. So, in 8 days, every single witness, he's asked a bunch of super retarded sovereign citizen questions about if they know who the plaintiff is and if a plaintiff, if they know that a plaintiff must be a flesh and blood person or some other bullshit like that, and the judge kept shutting him down for misrepresenting the law. misstating the law. And this is the first time he didn't raise any of those type of arguments. I would hope that it's in anticipation of the judge shutting him down and that he's kind of learned his lesson, that it's just a waste of everybody's time. Somehow I have the feeling that's not the case because he's super argumentative when it comes to the sovereign citizen stuff.
To the time that you placed the handcuffs on Mr. Brooks, remember that time frame?
Objection.
sir.
I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled, you may answer.
Thank you. Yes, I do.
You shouldn't overrule it. It's
Do you
not a proper
recall
objection.
how Mr. Brooks ended up on the ground as that was happening?
I do.
Could you tell us about that?
Objection. Saw in video.
That's not a
Overruled,
proper
the witness
objection.
may answer.
We instructed him to put his hands up and then to get down on the ground.
Did he comply with those instructions?
Yes.
He did.
Did you or any other officer have to put hands on Mr. Brooks to get him on the ground?
Objection. Speculative.
Speculative, you idiot.
The witness may answer.
No, sir, we did not.
After he was on the ground, that's when the handcuffs went on?
Objection.
correct.
Leading.
Overruled, she may answer.
Your answer again was,
That's correct.
at any point after the handcuffs went on, did you or any other officer throw Mr. Brooks to the ground?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
We did not.
How did you treat Mr. Brooks as you moved him from his prone position on the ground to the squad car?
Objection.
Overruled, she may answer.
As the video shows, he was instructed, let's call it the path of least resistance, to get up off of a prone position, eventually to his feet, with a minimum of discomfort.
Did you successfully achieve that objective?
Objection. Speculative.
How speculative, you fucking moron.
Are you able to answer?
Yes,
Go ahead.
in as best as one can stand a person up when they have their hands handcuffed.
She
behind
literally
their
did it
back.
herself.
Yes.
There's no speculation here.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down.
This guy's a massive retard. Holy shit.
Statement called. Next witness.
Thank you. The state calls Officer Garrett Luling.
The funny thing is, he fired his lawyers because I'm assuming they told
Good
him
afternoon,
that.
officer. If you would please make your way to the witness stand, which is up a riser to my right. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand, and my clerk, Teresa, who's on my left, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please be seated.
I have a feeling, my intuition is telling me that this
If
officer's
you would
testimony
please
is going to
state
be
your first and
savage.
last names for the record and spell
Like, at
each.
least if he messes with this officer.
First name is Garrett, last name is Luling. First name is spelled Garrett. My last name is spelled Luling.
Thank you. Go ahead, Attorney Upper, your witness.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Officer Luling.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I want to direct your attention to the date of November 21 of 2021. And you are aware of the Waukesha Christmas Parade taking place that afternoon. Is that correct, sir?
Objection. Leading.
Correct, I was working.
Hold on. Understand it's leading, there is some leeway when it's just laying foundation, so it's overruled, and the witness may answer, and the answer he provided may stand. Go ahead.
Correct, I was assigned to work the Christmas parade.
All right. At some point in time, were you aware of injuries to those involved in the parade, sir?
Objection. Leading.
Yes.
That's not leading.
Overruled. Make sure you wait till I rule on the objection, please.
Sorry.
And at some point later that evening, were you aware of a suspect being taken into custody in the 500 block of Elizabeth Street?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
All right, I want to direct your attention to that time frame, please. Did you respond to that area, sir?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I was initially parked setting up a perimeter near the area of Southwest Avenue in Wood. when I heard Specialist Klein come over the air indicating that there was a subject going door to door in the 500 block of Elizabeth Street, and then traveled north and to Elizabeth Street, which is right off of Northwest Avenue at that point. And I traveled westbound on Elizabeth Street looking for the subject.
What did you see when you arrived in that area?
Initially, as I came to the area, I observed an officer from the village of McGuanago, an officer from the Big Bend Police Department, as well as an officer from the City of Delafield Police Department in the area. I traveled westbound, spotlighting residents in the general area looking for the subject. Initially, I didn't see anyone, so I made it to the end of the street, at which point I began to double back. I briefly stopped and spoke with some civilians in the area, just saying, hey, if you see anyone, call the police department, let us know. And as I traveled back eastbound on Elizabeth Street in the 500 block, I observed the 3 officers from those aforementioned police departments detaining one subject at gunpoint in the front lawn of 553 Elizabeth Street.
You had indicated there were people out and about, civilians.
Yes, there was some people out on their porches or patios. I had my lights going on my squad, so that drew attention for people to kind of look out and call out to me as I was making a Y-turn.
A guy earlier testified
Do you know
that
about
barely
what
any
time of day
police
this was?
officers travel that neighborhood on a regular basis.
Not off the top of my head. It was dark out though.
Okay. As in relation to when the incident at the parade occurred to when you're arriving on Elizabeth Street, can you give us a rough time frame?
Section and leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
45 minutes an hour at the max.
Okay. So when you roll up on 553 Elizabeth Street, tell me what you saw.
So as I was coming back eastbound, I could see the lights from the other officers illuminating a subject on the ground. I immediately pulled up, parked my squad, got out and began running to where the officers were. And as I came up to where they were in the front lawn area between the residence and the sidewalk, they were in the midst of handcuffing and detaining a subject on the ground.
The subject that was being handcuffed and detained on the ground, you see that person in the courtroom here today?
I do, yes.
Are you able to identify him?
Yes,
Would you like him to remove his mask in order to do so, sir?
please.
Okay.
Mr. Brooks, if you please. Thank you.
So the subject I saw was Darrell Brooks seated at the defendant's table wearing a dark-colored suit with a gray shirt.
Now, you said he was already on the ground in the process of being handcuffed, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you see any officer slam Mr. Brooks to the ground?
No.
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled.
No.
Did you see any
This
use
guy
of force
still has
directed
no
towards
idea
Mr.
what
Brooks by
hearsay
any
is.
police officer on the scene at that time?
Objection. Hearsay.
He has no idea what
No.
hearsay is. Jesus.
Did you approach Mr. Brooks?
Hearsay.
Yes.
Did you speak to him?
Yes.
Hearsay.
What did you say?
I asked him to identify himself. At that time, he said Brooks. I again asked him to identify himself. He identified himself as Darrell Brooks.
That's the name he gave you, identifying himself.
Yes.
Objection. That's not what it says in the video.
Overruled.
Misrepresented the
Yes.
facts because
Right.
that's exactly what it says in the
Did
video.
that name have any significance when you heard it, sir?
Yes.
Why?
I knew prior to responding to that location that Officer Moss, who had initially located the car, had made a cursory check of the vehicle. During that time, he found documentation belonging to a Darrell Brooks.
We heard from him on day 7.
At some point, do you recall getting Mr. Brooks up off the ground?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
That's not an objection.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
Tell us what you remember at that point.
Darrell Brooks was picked up off the ground or assisted off the ground. He was then escorted to the front of my marked squad where I searched him.
At this point, are you probably the only officer from the City of Waukesha Police Department on the scene?
Objection. Speculative.
It's not
Overruled.
speculative,
You may answer.
idiot. He was
Yes,
there.
I was the only officer from the city of Waukesha at that time.
And the other officers were providing mutual aid to the City of Waukesha Police Department?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes.
being the squad from the city of Waukesha and the parade occurring in Waukesha, did you take custody of Mr. Brooks?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
Yes.
The judge should stop overruling. Earlier, she told the jury to completely disregard any objection to the name, and she's also allowed the witnesses to literally speak over him while he's objecting like that, because what he's doing is improper and it's just interrupting the prosecution because it's an improper objection. And if it's not a proper objection, then he's literally doing it to mess with the other side and interrupt as much as possible, to be as disruptive as possible to the process.
Prior to placing him in your squad, was Mr. Brooks searched?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
Judge, let them
Tell us
speak
what you
over
remember
him
about that,
or
sir.
give a corrective instruction.
So I searched Mr. Brooks, during which time I found some cards in his right pocket that had his name on it, as well as a black Ford key.
When you say some cards, what can you describe those further, please?
I don't consent to the
Debit
name on the
credit
cards.
All right, I'm going to show for you an item that's been marked as Exhibit 176. It's been previously
I
admitted.
don't consent to the name that I
ask
gave the
that it be
officer.
Displayed for the jury again, Your Honor.
Oh, permission granted.
I don't consent to the name that's on my
You see
my
the photograph on
license
the
and
monitor in front
registration
of you,
for the
sir?
vehicle.
Yes.
Do you see yourself in that photograph?
Yes.
Where are you?
I am the officer with his back to the camera with police written across a fluorescent yellow and orange vest.
Do you recall what you were doing at this point in time?
At that point, it looks like I'm buckling Darrell Brooks into the back of my squad,
All right.
placing him into the back of my squad.
And you see a set of hands on the right side of the photograph, sir?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Yes.
You see the objects that are being held in those hands, sir?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
What is that, a phone?
Yes.
Is that consistent with what you just testified as to the items you removed from
Oh, it's a
Darrell
wallet.
Darrell Brooks before placing him in your squad?
Objection.
Overruled.
Consent to being called that name and it's
Overruled. You may answer.
It's literally in your
Yes.
fucking wallet, you
Oh,
moron.
Glory, but can you circle for us the key that you indicated you found?
With my finger, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought I was joking when I said I object to the name in my ID. But he literally just did that.
And because it's a little hard to see, can you describe that key as you recall?
As I recall, the key was a single key. I don't recall there being any keychain to it. It was a fob type that had some buttons and it had a Ford emblem on it that indicated that it was a Ford key.
Okay. What did you do with these items after you, well, strike that. Should ask a better question. Did you eventually get these items back from the officer who was holding them?
Yes.
And what did you do with them?
I took custody of them until they were ultimately turned over to Detectives Stern and Detectives Carpenter.
All right. Do you
Oh, Carpenter
remember
was a detective,
Mr.
okay.
Brooks asking you why he had been detained?
objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled.
Yes.
You may answer, sir.
Yes.
Do you
Judge,
remember specifically what he said?
you gotta shut
I
it
recall
down,
that
Judge.
he had questioned why the police were handcuffing him or why the police were detaining him.
Did you reply?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
I told him that he was being detained as he matched a description of a subject involved in a crash in the downtown area.
A crash.
Did you say anything about the parade?
No.
A crash is downplaying it a lot.
Thank you, officer. I don't have any other questions for you.
Any cross?
Yes.
Go ahead.
This should be good. Is he gonna object to the name with his own questions, asking him about the name?
Do you recall speaking with Officer Moss that evening?
Not distinctly. There might have been some radio traffic between me and him at one point.
So it'd be fair to say that radio traffic, you guys spoke.
I can't tell you if I had direct contact with him or if I just recall him airing particular pieces of information.
Do you recall any particular bit of information that was aired by Officer Moss?
You're going to have to be more specific.
Do you recall Officer Moss airing that he had spoken with a potential eyewitness who indicated that they had observed numerous suspects run from the vehicle?
Objection, hearsay.
Grounds.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
I recall Officer Moss airing that to the officers responding in general that there may have been more than one suspect that had ran from the vehicle.
And do you recall if that aired information? Wait a second, back that up. You just stated that there may have been. Any reason why the air information said it had been, that he had spoken to a potential eyewitness?
Objection, hearsay, and
Grounds.
false or speculation as to the words of another person.
Grounds.
Sustained. Rephrase your question.
This guy still doesn't know what hearsay is. 5 days after embarrassing
Do
himself
you
every
recall
time.
any air information of description?
Hearsay.
Yes.
Do you recall what they were?
Objection, hearsay.
Grounds.
You're asking him the description of the suspect leaving the vehicle?
Yeah, what he heard aired.
What he heard, so it's
Oh, give me
hearsay.
answer.
Oh, wait, what?
I recall there being a description of either a light-skinned black male or possible Hispanic male wearing a white shirt,
Oh,
as well
the
as the
description
potential of
on the
a
radio.
white male with curly brown hair.
It wasn't curly, it was
Do you
dreadlocks.
recall what you did after hearing that air information?
Yes.
What did you do?
I responded to Officer Moss's general location, at which point he requested that a perimeter be set up. So I responded further south to set up a perimeter to attempts to keep those people within the confines of that perimeter.
Do you recall what general area that was?
You're going to have to be more descriptive to what general area are we talking about here?
The area.
Is he going to say the
area
parade
where
area?
Officer Moss was.
Officer Moss was at 338 Maple.
Is that the area that you responded to?
Generally, yes.
What do you mean by generally?
I was driving to the residence when he asked that a perimeter be set up.
He has a tendency to ask really, really, really dumb follow-up questions like, what do you mean by a lot? What do you mean by generally? What do you mean by vague? He doesn't understand or pretends to not understand the meaning of very, very simple words.
And do you recall where you set that perimeter up?
Yes.
And where was that?
It was loosely around that residence as well as to the south and to the west.
What streets were to the south and to the west?
Numerous streets.
Well, I'm referring strictly to your perimeter that you set. Do you recall which street you set your perimeter?
I want to say that I was probably the southernmost squad at that time, and I was at Southwest and Wood.
I'm sorry, what was the second street?
Wood?
Thank you.
The lawyers that he fired really did a lot of work highlighting the important parts.
While setting up your perimeter, did you receive any more information about the suspects who fled from the vehicle?
It was all kind of at the same time.
Do you recall being advised that the male black had possibly fled southbound and that the male white may have fled in the westbound direction?
Your Honor, I object. Move to strike. He's providing statements and facts that are not in evidence. They're based on hearsay.
Sustained.
The question was,
Doesn't matter what the question was, it was
Advised
sustained, you idiot.
that was the question. Does he recall being advised?
Still hearsay. Sustained.
So who were you advised by?
Officer Moss.
And do you recall what you were advised?
Objection.
Hearsay. You idiot. You just got objected to that like 2 times
Sustained.
already.
Next question.
Grounds for sustain, Your Honor?
Next question, please. Hearsay.
Move on, idiot.
Hearsay.
It's not hearsay. It is hearsay. You're just a retard. If I was a judge, I would say the jury is asked to strike the last comment.
And how did you end up being dispatched to the 500 block of Elizabeth Street?
I heard another officer error that they were listening to Waukesha County Communications, indicating that there was a person going door to door in the 500 block of Elizabeth Street.
That's such a bad way to keep low profile.
I'm sorry, you stated you heard that?
Heard what?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be like hearsay?
Only if it's being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. If it's just explain what he did next, then no.
Judge, you don't have to give him
That
fucking
was the
legal.
same question I asked before.
Oh, you motherfucker. Stop being argumentative. The judge has infinite patience, but it's actually hurting the state's fairness. I mean, he's not the only one who deserves to have a fair trial. They deserve to. And the judge is too lenient towards this guy. Any lawyer would have gotten a gazillion sanctions by now. And been reprimanded a million times.
And upon arriving at Elizabeth Street, you stated that there was already a suspect being detained at the moment that you arrived?
He didn't say detained, I
No.
don't recall.
So what did you observe when you got to the 500 block of Elizabeth Street?
He already answered that.
I already explained that upon getting there, I traveled westbound on Elizabeth Street till it ended, at which point I turned around and came back. So when I initially got there, I didn't see anything.
Did you observe someone being detained at gunpoint?
Not upon initially getting there, no.
Not initially.
And also, how would he know if
any
that
time
guy's
you
being
observe
detained or
someone
what?
being detained at gunpoint?
Yes, I already said that.
Do you recall what they had on?
Yes.
Police uniforms?
You state for the record and for the jury what they had on?
It had red t-shirts
Oh,
and blue
himself
jeans.
he's talking about. The royal
Blue
they.
jeans. Were they jogging pants or blue jeans?
Appeared to be blue jeans.
Yeah, that's the gotcha. It was a different type of pants. Now you're not guilty of murder. Idiot. Seems he's hinging his entire case on people misidentifying him as a suspect, which is absurd. And
And
the
do you
sovereign
recall
citizen bullshit.
why the suspect was being detained at that time?
Because
Yes.
he murdered people.
And what do you recall about why they were being detained at that time?
You were being detained for
You, nice.
involvement in a crash in the downtown area.
It wasn't a crash, it was a terrorist act, if anything.
And upon when the suspect was detained, do you recall stating that you were confident they were either the driver or passenger of the vehicle found at
He matched every description.
338 Maple?
No, I never said that.
Did you give a report about what happened that evening?
Yes.
Did you write it yourself?
Yes.
You better write it yourself. And ask my mommy for help with the spelling.
So I'm reading from your report right here.
Is that
You
his?
just stated that you wrote.
Is that the report that he wrote?
Do you recall saying, I was confident that Brooks was either the driver or passenger of the striking vehicle?
That is in my report. However, you asked if I said that. I didn't say that. That's a more or less an internal
I know this
dialogue
cop
with
is not gonna
myself saying
be.
that I felt confident that you were the suspect, either the driver or passenger in that vehicle.
Yeah, he seems intelligent. He's not gonna fall for this guy's bullshit. So far, he hasn't been able to hurt anybody's credibility at all. None of the witnesses had their credibility challenged in any way.
So it'd be fair to say at the time of your report, you were confident that it was more than one person in the vehicle.
No, that wouldn't be
No.
fair to say. He didn't even
So why
hint.
did you write the report in that fashion?
You
I
need
was
to learn
confident
how
that
to
you were
read.
involved with that vehicle and with the crash in the downtown area.
He
So
wrote
would it be fair to
either
say
driver
that
or
you couldn't have
passenger.
you could have written your report in that fashion instead of the fashion that you wrote it?
Objection argumentative.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Thank you.
As to the form of the question.
Any reason why you were referred to a passenger?
Yes.
He might have been
Initially,
either.
There was reports that multiple people fled from the vehicle, from the area of the vehicle.
I haven't heard that before, but interesting.
And because of those reports is why you wrote your report in that fashion.
He didn't write that there were
Or in
two
that fashion
people,
that
you
you wrote.
moron.
Objection asked and answered, argumentative.
Grounds.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
He's trying to challenge him as if the cop said that there were two people in the car, which he never did. His report said that he was either the driver or the passenger. Now Darrell is trying to impeach him by pretending, strawmanning his report as if it says that there's two people in the car when it wasn't. And all of this is non-consequential, even if he did think that there were two people in the car, or 5 people in the car, or that it was a clown car, or anything like that with like 16 different Darrells in it. It wouldn't fucking matter. None of it matters. It's not like it makes him more or less likely to be guilty of murder if the cop mistook the amount of people in the car in his report.
So when you observed the suspect being detained at Elizabeth Street,
Is it
at
going to be
that
an
time,
instant
did you know
answer?
the suspect's name?
No.
That was also a confusing question because the suspect, when did he become the suspect in the mind of the officer at the time? Like there's the man being detained as the suspect, and there's the suspect of
And you found a
what happened in the
credit or
parade.
debit card when conducting a search.
He's asking about his name now.
Yes.
This should be good.
Do you recall where you found that credit or debit card?
In his pocket?
Your right pocket.
In your pocket. Good. This officer should keep calling it you and pointing to him and everything. You, Darrell Brooks. You, the guy who keeps making stupid arguments. You, Darrell Brooks.
In Exhibit 176, where it shows someone holding the credit card, was that you
Was what me?
The guy in
holding
the
the
video.
credit card?
No.
But you are the one that found it.
Yes.
And what else did you find?
A
Keys?
Ford car key. Vehicle key.
And where did you find that?
Pocket.
Your right pants pocket.
Why is he asking these questions? Is he trying to establish more facts about why the identification is correct? He's not doing himself any favors. He's eliciting testimony that ties
Play,
him to the vehicle.
Exhibit 80 for the witness.
Stay able to do that, please? The entire
Can you-
video or just a part of it?
I'm guessing around the 4 minute and 50 or somewhere up in that area.
That's the last 10 seconds, sir. Is that what you want?
Yeah, somewhere up in that area.
Take a look at it. Is that where you want us to start? Or farther back?
A little further back.
Thank you, Miss Gussie. How about there?
Uh,
436.
It's kind of funny that the state's
A
doing
little
all the
further
work
back,
for
I'm
him.
sorry.
They're helping him out with setting up the videos.
Maybe. Yeah, wherever it's at right now, 409. Can you play it from there real quick?
You want the sound, I take it?
I don't really think the sound is necessary. More so the visual.
Okay. It's playing from 4:15.
Not much of a visual.
Do you remember this video?
What are we
No,
looking
I
at?
didn't. That's not my body cam video.
Pause. Go back like 2 seconds.
Why did we have to go back so much, you idiot?
Is that this touchscreen, right? Is this right here the credit debit cards that you found?
I
How
can't
would he
tell what
know?
that is.
Can you clear that?
Zoom enhance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you go back maybe 2 more seconds? I think it's a clearer shot.
For the record, Your Honor, it's not that easy to just jump back 2 seconds. I mean, if he has a specific time, we can jump to a time.
How would I know?
Just count it in your head.
The video once. Like, why is it that big of a deal?
If it's not that big of a deal, do it yourself, asshole.
Right there.
4:35, Your Honor.
4:35.
Now it's on 4:37. We
Can
started
you
it
pause it at
4.
4:35?
Right, it was started and then you said pause and obviously it
Jesus.
takes time to do that, so. And the record should reflect that Mr. Brooks has drawn a circle around something on the still image. Go ahead, ask
It
your
looks like a
question.
phone. It doesn't look like credit cards.
Consent to that name.
Ask your question, sir.
Yeah, it's not your time to testify, idiot.
Around the 4:35 mark, you can see whoever's this is holding.
Yeah, make it harder to figure out what it is.
Credit card, debit card.
It doesn't look like shit to me.
Is that you?
Objection, that assumes a fact not in evidence, Your Honor.
Yep.
Sustained. Rephrase your question.
Can you clear that?
Madam Clerk, please, thank you.
Ask him, does this look like a credit card? And then he's going to
You
say,
said
I have no idea
that
what this is.
You found a key. Where's the footage of you finding the key?
Wait. Where's the footage of you finding the key? Why are you asking him that? You're supposed to confront him with the footage. He's not supposed to show you the footage. He is the fucking witness!
I don't have a body cam, so there's not going to be video of my body cam.
So if you were wearing your body cam, it
If
would've
you were.
depicted what you found during your search.
Maybe it would.
No, the city of Waukesha did not have body cams during this incident.
That didn't really answer his question. I would object non-responsive if I was Darrell.
So it'd be fair to say there is no footage of you finding a key. Grounds.
It's argumentative, and he's already said he was not wearing a body camera.
Actually,
He can't know possibly, it's speculation, he can't know possibly.
What was
Actually,
on
he
somebody
said the
else's
city
body
of
camera.
Waukesha didn't have body cams. He didn't say.
Right,
He also
sustained,
said
it
he didn't
assumes
have one.
Facts not in evidence and calls for speculation on the part of this witness, and there's also lack of foundation as to this witness.
Everything is wrong with this question.
The
It's just
foundation
stupid.
is this mysterious key he said he found.
The jury will disregard that statement made by
Thank
Mr.
you,
Brooks. It's
Judge.
not his
Finally-
time to testify. You will have an opportunity to do that later if you choose.
You should have said that like
Consent to
10.
being called that name for the record.
It's not your time to testify. She should have just repeated herself again. The jury is instructed to disregard that comment. It is not his turn to testify. The objection to the name is a misstatement of the law and is not appropriate at this time.
Madam Clerk, you can take that off.
I'll be right back in a second.
At any time that evening, were you able to detain any other suspects?
No.
Wait, I missed that last one, actually.
At any time that evening, were you able to detain any other suspects?
No.
Why is this relevant? And what does he mean by were you able to? Were they even attempting to? Dude, you have time to prepare in your jail cell. Are you just preparing your sovereign citizen arguments and that's it?
After the suspect was detained, do you recall how long you stayed at the scene?
What does it matter?
Which particular part of the scene?
Yeah, there's a few scenes.
Where you had detained the suspect?
Okay.
At 553 Elizabeth Street.
Correct.
Off my best estimate, I was probably there for about
An hour?
25 minutes.
Okay.
And what did you do in those 25 minutes?
During those
Assistant
25
officers?
minutes was time detaining you, as well as briefly speaking with the homeowner.
Who's the Sioux you speak
and
of?
ultimately turning you back over to detectives.
And what did you do from there?
From there, I went back into a perimeter position.
Would that be referring to the perimeter that you mentioned that you had set
Yes,
around the area of where Officer Moss was located?
yes.
And how long did you stay at that perimeter?
I'm not 100% positive. Extended period of time.
What does it matter?
Do you recall why you were dispatched back to that perimeter?
Collect more evidence?
At that time, there was a possibility that there may be another party involved. So as the investigation was still ongoing and they're attempting to determine if there was another party involved, the perimeter was maintained.
And now he's
so
gonna
that
pretend
no
that
one
he
could
said that there
squeeze
was
out
another
through that
party
perimeter
involved.
and flee.
Why is any of this gonna help you, Darrell? What's the point? This is completely pointless. Jesus.
And
I'm gonna start skipping.
and do you recall there being ring footage
You asked him that already.
of the residents of 553 Elizabeth Street?
Yes.
Did you view those? Did you view the ring footage that evening?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Did you view the ring footage at all?
Yes.
What's your point?
Are you aware of what happened to the ring footage?
A copy of the ring
It took him that long to ask the follow-up question. Fuck my life.
footage was emailed to me by the homeowner. And it was ultimately placed on property inventory at the Waukesha Police Department.
Do you recall if it was multiple videos?
It was
It
4.
was, yes.
So what? Darrell, so what? What's the point? Do you have any gotcha about the videos, or you're just gonna randomly ask him about them? Dude.
Do you recall that about 1640 hours? I don't know. Would that be 440?
Yes, that's
Yes,
what
that's
it would be.
440.
Do you recall directing traffic at the intersection of Barstow Street and Corina?
Yes.
And do you recall an officer airing anything over the radio at that time?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall what that was?
A million
An
things.
officer had aired that you had driven around his barricade or into the parade route.
You. Who do you refer to as
You, Darrell
You,
Brooks.
Darrell Brooks.
Thank you.
And you knew that at that time.
Doesn't matter if you knew it at the time. That's not what you asked him, you fucking
How would
retard.
you say you?
Because he knew it afterwards.
Throughout the investigation, it was determined to be.
Oh, this guy is so stupid. He doesn't know how to ask questions. He thinks that he's impeaching their testimony. They're very careful about what they're saying. And they're not even putting too much effort into it because of how much of a smooth brain Darrell is. I mean, an infant could probably outsmart him on the witness stand, but I hope it's clear to everybody why this is a completely stupid line of questioning. It's not a gotcha. It's not nothing. It just makes Darrell look like an idiot. Oh, if you didn't know the suspect's name at the time, then you couldn't have possibly ever learned his name ever at any point in time since then, throughout all of existence. Why? Because you asked him particularly about that point in time. Well, learn to ask better questions, moron. Jesus. Ouch. That was pretty loud.
Do you recall do you recall it being any other air information at that time?
Yes.
Do you recall what that was?
Objection, calls for hearsay.
Grounds.
Are you offering it for the truth of the matter asserted or for some other reason? Otherwise,
For
it's
the,
hearsay.
for the truth of the matter, I'm asking them.
Then
does he
no,
recall what
then
was
it's
aired?
hearsay. No, you gotta, the judge, oh my god. The judge just gave you a hand and said, hey, here's an exception to hearsay. If it's not asserted for the truth of the matter, then you could still ask him about it and it wouldn't be hearsay. But 1000 IQ Darrell says, no, it is for the truth of the matter. Okay, then it's hearsay.
On his radio.
Well, then you're asking him to testify to hearsay, so it's sustained.
Retard! Jesus! And she told you this exact reasoning at least 12 different times throughout the past 5 days. Oh my god. He's such a slow learner, or just slow in general.
Do you recall an officer indicating that the vehicle
Hearsay.
was continuing westbound and possibly blaring its horn?
Hearsay.
Objection.
Grounds.
Hearsay.
Same objection, Your Honor. He's attempting to testify and offering hearsay statements into the
Yes.
record.
I'm not attempting to.
That's exactly what you're doing, you idiot.
Sustained.
Grounds for the sustain.
Grounds for the
The
sustain.
reasons the state indicated.
That's a good answer. First time the judge actually used it. Because the state keep giving him the grounds every single time, but he keeps speaking
recall-
over
You can
them.
ask the witness if he heard any horns at that time. That would be different.
Stop helping him out. I mean, he's already exploited
Someone
every bit
else
of
may have
goodwill the
reported
court
would be
was
hearsay.
willing to extend them.
Just
Stop
offer
doing
for the
it.
truth of the matter asserted.
Well, I'm reading from the report that he wrote.
No, he didn't write that report.
That doesn't take away that it's hearsay. If it's in the report and someone else said it, it's actually double hearsay.
Yep. And she's told him that in those exact words before, too. He still doesn't know what hearsay
Do
is.
you recall hearing about a vehicle blowing its horn?
Hearsay.
Objection.
Grounds.
Same objection, Your Honor.
He still doesn't know
Oh.
what hearsay is. She explained it to you 3 times in a row now.
He asked if this witness heard. That's how I heard the question. I think
Oh
that's what
my
you were
God.
asking. You mean at the
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Hear about a horn.
Thank
Do you
you.
hear, Your Honor?
if the question was, did this witness hear a horn?
No,
the
that's
witness
not-
may
that-
answer the
no,
question.
actually,
Did he
that's
hear
not true.
about a horn?
Judge, you're
That's
wrong.
different. That would be
Judge,
hearsay.
you're
So why don't you
wrong.
Rephrase your question, sir.
Did you hear a horn?
Good.
No.
Judge, stop helping him. You're ruining. You're literally being wrong
Just so
in an
we're clear, I
attempt to
assume
help
when
him.
you- that your question meant when he was at Barstow and Carino. Because that's what he was.
Stop helping him even more. He
That's what
didn't
you
clarify
meant?
any of
Is
this.
that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
Judge, do you want maybe do you want to swap places with him so that he'll be on the on your seat and he'll determine what's going on in the courtroom while you sit in his place and argue for him? Maybe, Judge, do you want to do that? That would sure be helpful for his case.
Very well. Next question.
Oh God, Judge, I like you. Stop being such a cunt sometimes. I understand you're trying not to get appealed, but this is ridiculous. Come on now.
Do you have any other questions for this
Yeah.
witness?
Yeah.
Do you know who the plaintiff is in this case?
Any reason why it would be in your report that a vehicle was blaring its horn?
Same
'Cause he
objection,
heard-
Your Honor.
Grounds.
Assumes facts not in evidence. Calls for hearsay.
Why didn't you ask him if you heard the horn? Such a easier question
Have you
than.
read the complaint in this matter?
There we go.
No.
Now he's gonna ask him about plaintiffs.
Have you seen the complaint in this matter?
Shut it down, Judge.
No.
Shut it down now. 90611 now. You're gonna do it already. You're gonna do it eventually. So do it now. Under
You yourself
90611.
file a claim in this matter?
No.
Judge, cut him
Know of
off under
anyone who filed a claim in this
90611.
matter?
If you don't have any further
Grounds.
questions.
Oh. Overruled. He may answer if he knows.
No.
Judge, stop encouraging him. You know that he's doing the sub-sit bullshit for just delay tactics.
Do you recall whom subpoenaed you to testify here today?
The state of Wisconsin. Via the Waukesha.
I'm gonna predict what his next sentence gonna be, or the one after that. Isn't it true that only a flesh and blood person can be a plaintiff in a case? And then the judge is gonna say the jury is instructed to disregard that statement as that is a misstatement of the law.
County District Attorney's Office.
You said state of Wisconsin. Who would you be referring to when you say state of Wisconsin?
The entity that is the state of Wisconsin judicial system.
So the state of Wisconsin is an entity to the best of your knowledge.
Sorry, it was the one
Yes.
after that.
Is an entity a living, breathing human?
Objection,
Grounds.
irrelevant, argumentative.
Sustained. Next question.
No, Judge, instruct the jury to strike that.
Do you know if the state of Wisconsin is the plaintiff in this matter?
Yes.
An entity is the plaintiff?
Yes.
Objection, argumentative.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Misstatement of the law. You already told that to the jury like 6 times before. Say it again. Let it be loud and clear that he's misstating the law and that he's following stupid legal theories that have no merit. That's what the jury deserved to know. Judge, come on. 90611 is asked. You've done it like 10 times already. Do it one more
Have
time.
you ever had any interaction with the plaintiff in this matter?
Objection,
Grounds.
irrelevant.
Grounds.
Sustained. It's also overly broad.
Judge, stop this.
You ever had a phone conversation?
Objection, irrelevant.
Why do we have to do this farce?
plaintiff.
Every single witness.
About this case,
About this case?
overruled. You may answer.
No.
The prosecution attorney was pretty shocked right there for a second. Judge, stop encouraging him. I'm starting to blame the judge for at least half of all of this waste of time and his bullshit with
Have
the
you ever
subset
seen the plaintiff in
arguments.
this case?
Objection, Your Honor.
Grounds.
This entire line of questioning is completely irrelevant.
Thank you.
Grounds.
Sustained on relevance grounds. Next question, please.
He doesn't have any other questions. If he had, he would have asked them before he went through this line of questioning. That would have ended his cross. He knows there's a high chance that you're going to end this cross early, so just do it. Come on. That's why he's allowing himself to be this disrespectful to the procedure and keep asking these questions, because he gotten most of the important questions out of the way, so now he can waste everybody's time without any kind of penalty.
No further questions.
All right,
Oh,
thank you. Any redirect?
Jesus. Daryl,
Nothing else, thank you, Judge.
I actually
All right,
appreciate
thank you. This will be a good opportunity to
more
take
than
a
the judge.
mid-afternoon break as well.
I can't believe that Daryl was now more respectful to the time of the court than the judge herself was.
All rise for the jury, please. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, they're off. Let's see when it comes back. Damn.
Eat it. Oh, if we could just maybe talk scheduling for a moment. We are back on the record, and the audio's on, so that's good. Attorney Opper, where are you at for today? I presume you have probably another witness or so.
Yes, we were just discussing that as well, Your Honor. I have one more witness whom I believe will be shorter in duration, and then we would be prepared to start with another witness who is lengthier, probably about an hour for direct examination. I'm sorry, probably about 4
Your mic
hours
is on.
because of the recorded interviews that need to be displayed to the jury. So we could either start that witness this afternoon and get some of it done and finish with him in the morning, or just start fresh with him in the morning.
And then do we have the interpreter coming tomorrow?
Yes, and we have that interruption or pause in our case scheduled. I'm told the interpreter would be ready, or excuse me, available anytime between 9:30 and noon. So maybe around the time of the mid-morning break, we would pause what we're doing in the state's case.
They keep
and
bringing up
turn
this
to
interpreter,
the
but
defense
he
witness.
hasn't come
All right.
and
And then,
he
Your
hasn't showed
Honor,
up yet, and I don't see why.
Truthfully, at this point,
It's
we
so
are
important.
probably on track to rest sometime on Wednesday.
Interesting.
We've done good today. We're on schedule for today, but especially if we have to interrupt with that defense witness tomorrow, we don't think we'll be able to finish until sometime on Wednesday.
Okay, understood. And have you been in contact with the witnesses that were subpoenaed by Mr. Brooks to let them know about
Oh.
when they will be?
Wait, he actually had witnesses legitimately subpoenaed because he tried to subpoena, and I quote, the state of Wisconsin. So, interesting that he actually followed the procedure properly this time, and I wonder who he's going to call.
Will be needed.
Yes, and we will need further direction on that from Mr. Brooks as far as what order he would like them in and when he wants them here. And again, depending on how this shakes out, I think probably about this time tomorrow we'll be in better shape to know if we would perhaps get to defense witnesses Wednesday afternoon or just start Thursday morning with defense witnesses. If he lets us know the order he wants them in, we can start making those arrangements on his behalf. But right now, they all know that they're essentially on call for
The state's closing arguments are going to be brutal.
Right. And if my memory serves, the witness who would be called out of order, is that Juan Marquez?
Yes.
All right.
That's
so
what we need the interpreter
you should
for?
probably be ready to have that person because that's when we have the interpreter available. Tomorrow sometime. I presume you still want to call that witness? All right, and so just be prepared to do your direct when we can fit it in at the appropriate break, and depending on where we end with witnesses tonight. And then if you would let the state know the order of your witnesses, so we can have them come at different times so that they're not all here for days waiting to be called.
Respect. The prosecution didn't tell me the order of their witnesses. Why do I have to tell them the order of mine?
Because they're assisting you in getting them to court. They've served the subpoenas on your behalf, and as a courtesy to those witnesses, I need you to provide, I don't even care if it's the order, but if you say...
This guy thinks that it's better to inconvenience people just so there will be the appearance of fairness, when so far this entire trial, everybody's been bending over backwards just to not step on his toes while he is shitting on everybody and making fun of everybody and interrupting everybody. This is a one hell of a clown of like a clown show. What's going on here?
These three will be called in the morning. These three will be in the afternoon. That will be okay with me. I just want to be able to tell those witnesses through the DA, you three will be Wednesday afternoon, you three will be, whatever the number is, will be Thursday morning, and the rest Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, whatever it may be.
I get what you're saying, but it's still, from what I'm hearing from the prosecution, they're not sure exactly when they'll be resting their case.
They said Wednesday.
So
I think they're trying to rest their case sooner rather than later, but they have some witnesses to get through, and what they're telling us is that that will be sometime on Wednesday, given the pause that they will take in their case to call Mr. Marquez so that he can be questioned by you with the interpreter.
so wouldn't it make more sense to...
Whatever he's gonna say next is not gonna make any sense. Whenever he prefaces something with "wouldn't it make more sense" or "wouldn't it be fair," you know that the answer is always no, it wouldn't.
to start calling my witnesses Thursday then? If
No, you should be ready to go Wednesday afternoon. I'm not gonna take a break for that. You should be ready to go. I mean, if we get done at
He
4
wants to
o'clock on
delay the
Wednesday
inevitable.
afternoon, that might be a different story, but it sounds like we should be able to call witnesses. Of course, you will need to let me know if you're going to give an opening statement. You had deferred that, and that could adjust some of the timing. But so I need you to provide that order to the state tomorrow when you come into court, so that they can work with those witnesses
I'd probably
better.
say I'm not going to provide a specific order. I'm not going to do that.
Well, then you need to tell which day. Like morning and afternoon, and how many witnesses per. I'm not going to just bring them in all at the same time and make them wait. That's not, that would be a discourtesy.
Remember how we prefaced this? Wouldn't it make more sense? And now what he's saying makes no fucking sense to anybody.
To those witnesses who you are calling. So I want to have some idea of what your game plan is for them.
I get that, but I'm still confused on.
You're not
I didn't-
confused.
I
You're just
essentially
being a
didn't know
fucking
who they was
asshole
calling
right
in
now.
order.
So,
That's not really relevant at this moment, sir. So I
So?
need you to provide the order
I'm not gonna provide
and
the order.
or by start Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday afternoon, unless they're very short. Just keep in mind we generally have about, when we start at 8:30, we go till about noon.
Judge, he's not listening to
Probably
you
start
right
up
now.
an hour and 15 minutes after the lunch, so you have another couple of hours.
He's not
so
listening
you
to a
should be
word
able
you're
to know
saying,
about
Judge.
how long you're gonna question them, and just give us who those are for each of those blocks, and then be ready for Mr. Marquez tomorrow.
I'll be ready for that, but
All right.
I'll probably have an idea of who I think should come in.
Then
I'm not gonna provide an order.
okay. If I were the judge, I would do the following. Okay. In that case, the court will determine the order in which your witnesses come in, and you have foregone your privilege of determining the order of the witnesses. Teach him lessons, Judge. He's literally just trying to make a mockery of everything just as delay tactics. This is ridiculous.
Assistance, Your Honor, we will do that. Otherwise, he can be responsible for getting these witnesses here himself.
You've got to cooperate with this process, or they're assisting you. Otherwise, you're going to be responsible for telling these witnesses when to come in.
And so how am I supposed to do that?
That is your fucking problem. They're trying to help you out here, and you're saying that you're not gonna cooperate. Well, if you're not gonna cooperate, then fuck you, you asshole.
Well, then you should cooperate with the state and
Exactly.
their assistance to help you, sir.
I'm not gonna give a specific order.
Then do it yourself.
Sir, are
You know what? I said that the court should determine the order. No. I think what the prosecutors are doing is even smarter. It's like, okay, do it yourself, asshole.
you willing to provide the who the witnesses are by half day?
I just said that.
All right,
I
then
said I'm
that's
not
what I
gonna-
need by tomorrow
Yeah, he
morning.
said he's
giving
not
an
gonna
order,
do that.
That's
what I
fine.
said.
I'm okay with that, and the state will be okay with that because I said they'll be okay with that.
We're
So,
okay, Judge, thank you.
all right, thank you.
So what about what's supposed to be going on today? How late do we plan to go today?
Well, we'll have to see how long this witness lasts and if we can start the next witness. I 4:30, 5 o'clock, maybe even 5:30. We'll see. So, with that, let's bring the jury out.
Are we gonna address subject matter jurisdiction
Oh
at
my
some point?
God.
Not beyond what I've already addressed, sir.
Which
Good
you
answer.
addressed it, you didn't prove it. You didn't verify it.
That's not
It's
required.
not verified proof that you have.
Yeah, but
subject
don't
matter
answer, Judge.
jurisdiction.
It's not required,
It's
but
not
don't
been
answer.
proven on
Just
record.
keep ignoring him. Maybe given a corrective instruction to the jury if they've already stepped in. Oh, they're happy. Prosecution looks super
That
happy.
judicial determination, Your Honor, that you're not gonna answer that?
Is that absolute non-answer and non-response and complete ignoring me a judicial determination? Yeah, stop embarrassing yourself, clown.
Your request is noted for the record. I've already addressed it.
Don't note it for the record. It's
Is
not
it
even
noted for
worthy
the
of.
record?
Oh, now the judge has opened the can of worms again. Just ignore him. Let him go through his litany and ignore him. That's the best approach. It's proven itself so far. Stop encouraging him, Judge.
It should be noted for the record also that's a tacit agreement.
All rise for the jury, please. Thank you.
Tacit
We've
agreement.
already been right.
It's a tactical agreement.
Wondering when we go get the answer to that subject matter jurisdiction, though.
Judge, it's your fault. You have no right to be pissed off now. You're the one who engaged with them. I blame the judge today. She was egging him on.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Attorney Opper, you may call your next witness.
Thank you. The state calls Officer Leha.
Good afternoon, Officer Leha. If you would please make your way to my witness stand. When you get there, please remain standing, raise your right hand. My clerk, Teresa, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. And I should say the witness stand. I don't have ownership over it. But in any event, state your first and last names for the record.
First name Draylen, last name Leha.
Could you spell both?
Draelon, last name Leha, Leija.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
All right, thank you, Officer Leha. Sir, I'd like to direct your attention to the evening of November 21, 2021. Were you working on duty that afternoon?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I should ask, where do you work?
City of Waukesha Police Department.
How long have you been a police officer?
A little
Yeah,
over 2
he's
years.
jacked.
Okay. So on that evening, were you
Oh my
aware that
God.
the parade was taking place in downtown Waukesha?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you work the parade?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall what time it was when you came on duty, sir?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer.
I believe it was a little after 5.
I think this officer knows how to testify because he knew to immediately stop as soon as there was an objection, even if it was a retarded objection.
Were you scheduled to work that evening?
Yes.
Okay. And around the time of 12 a.m. midnight, so now I think we're getting into the next day of November 22 of 2021, were you asked to assist detectives at Waukesha Memorial Hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to that location?
I did.
And did you meet with anybody there?
Yes, ma'am.
Objection, leading.
No, that was not
Overruled.
leading.
You may answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Who did you meet with?
I met with Detective Jay Carpenter and acting detective at the time, Detective Stern.
Did they ask you to assist them in some fashion?
That
Yes,
might
ma'am.
have been leading.
What did they ask you to do?
I was
Objection,
tasked.
leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
I was tasked with transporting Mr. Brooks to the Muskego Police Department.
Okay. So at this point, Mr. Brooks is in custody.
Yes, ma'am.
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
That's not an objection.
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
Don't
Yes, ma'am.
overrule it. Acknowledge that
And
it's
the
not a
person
proper
you were
objection.
asked to drive to the Muskego Police Department, you see him in this courtroom here today.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you identify him, please, and if Mr. Brooks would please remove his mask, Your Honor?
Objection. I don't.
That asshole
consent
right
to being
there.
called that name
Oh, thank you. You were.
for the 100th
Apologies.
time.
For the 100th time. Nobody cares for the 100th
It's the
time.
black male sitting at the
Should have
table
learned
with the black
your
shirt
lesson 100 times
and
ago.
the mask that he just put back on.
Where did you first meet?
Oh, hold on. The record should reflect he did point to the defense table, and the record will reflect he identified him. Go ahead.
Okay. Where did you first meet Mr. Brooks?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Stop interrupting. Judge,
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
Judge, stop overruling it. Now you're encouraging him and egging him on to keep doing it. You need to shut it down, tell the jury is instructed to disregard these comments as he's just interrupting and it's not a proper objection and he's just doing this to be interruptive, that's all.
The Waukesha Memorial Hospital, the police hold room.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Mr. Brooks was talking over you.
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled. Go ahead, sir.
At the
Judge,
Waukesha Memorial Hospital in the police hold room.
All right. And where were you going to take him?
To the Muskego Police Department.
Why?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
why is a leading question? Oof, that's the textbook opposite of a leading question. That is as far away from a leading question as I can possibly imagine any question in the universe ever being.
Detective Carpenter said that he was going to be there so that he can question them sometime in the near future.
Is the Muskego Police Department located in the city of Waukesha?
No,
Objection,
ma'am.
relevancy.
Overruled. He may answer.
That might have
Oh,
been
yeah.
leading.
Why didn't you take him back to your police department?
Objection.
Overruled. He may answer.
At the time, we were at the annex, which is our older police department. Our police department that we usually report out of was being renovated, so we didn't have any holding cells.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did the Muskego Police Department have a holding cell at their facility?
Objections.
Objections.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, ma'am.
And
He's
they
trying
were
not to
willing
laugh. I like this
house
guy.
Mr. Brooks there under mutual aid.
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
Judge, stop
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
So, you put him in your squad car?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, tell us about that, your drive.
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer.
So I put Mr. Brooks in my squad car. We left the hospital I took custody of him
I think Darrell really doesn't like this guy.
around 12:18 a.m. We typed in my GPS to the Muskego Police Department. We left the hospital. We had to go eastbound in Wisconsin, which is a road that's parallel to Main Street where the parade was taking place.
Okay.
Once we passed while going eastbound in Wisconsin, there was multiple marked squad cars, so they're with their emergency lights on.
Do you know what they were doing?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
Do you know what they were doing? Relevancy?
They were blocking traffic, investigating an incident that transpired earlier that evening.
Okay. Is it just, excuse me, is it just you and Mr. Brooks in the squad car?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, it was just me and Darrell Brooks in the
Judge,
the
don't
squad
let him
car.
interrupt.
Okay.
Stop it.
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Judge,
Overruled.
it's about
And as you
time.
traveled in the area of Wisconsin Avenue, did Mr. Brooks make any statements?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Judge, that's it. That's it. It's
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
Judge, stop
Yes,
it.
Mr. Brooks said once we were going eastbound in Wisconsin, and I quote, he said, "Damn, it looks like they were dealing with something heavy."
Okay. Did you reply to him in any way?
No.
Did he continue to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
What else did he say?
He asked me if there was a basketball game going on or something tonight, and to which I replied, "I'm not sure."
Okay. Did you continue on transporting him to the Muskego Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point, were you responsible for watching over him at the Muskego Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. Your answer may stand. Go ahead and just wait until I rule on the
Okay, I'm
objections,
sorry.
please. That's okay.
How long did you watch him for?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled.
I believe we got to the jail around closer to 1 a.m. I watched him up until about 7 a.m.
What kinds of things do you remember he did overnight?
Objection. Relevancy.
Masturbated.
Overruled. You may answer.
I know that he was fed around 2 a.m. He slept most of the night. He got up around 5 a.m., asked for water. I got him water. And he asked to make a phone call to his daughter.
Okay. Did you allow that?
No.
Good.
Did you said it appeared he was sleeping throughout most of the night?
Yes, ma'am.
Objection. Hearsay.
That's not hearsay, you fucking retard.
Did
At
you
any-
answer?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
All right. Other than asking to call his daughter, did he make any other statements to you that you can recall?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer.
I remember he made some complaints that the room was too bright. He wanted me to dim the room.
Damn, this guy is a fucking Karen.
Okay.
Jesus
Like
Christ.
the lights in the room were too bright?
Correct, in the cell, holding cell.
Oh, the lights in the room
Did
were
you
too. The lights in the room were too bright, says the guy who just murdered 7 people because he wanted to get away from him assaulting his ex-girlfriend.
Turn off the lights for him?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. His answer may stand.
And were you relieved by another officer then later that morning?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions.
Hey, Cross.
Yep.
Of course, he was
That's
cross.
a yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that a yes?
Go ahead.
Yeah, isn't a yes.
You said that you recall checking every 30 minutes on doing like well-being checks, right?
That's correct.
Did you know that there was a point at which my being wasn't well?
And how do you know for sure that the suspect was asleep?
He looked asleep. I don't know for
I don't
sure.
know
He might have
sure
been
if
pretending.
You were sleeping. I know that the cover was over your head. and every time I go and check in
Oh
on you,
my God, this
I
question
can see that
is
your chest was
dumb.
rising up and down from underneath the blanket. So it's a possibility that you were sleeping. It's a possibility that you weren't.
Pretending.
Cover, so it appeared that you were asleep.
If it was pretending, it's even more hilarious.
So it'd be fair to say you're not sure.
What does it matter?
Answer stands, Your Honor. It's asked and answered.
Objection.
Overruled. He may answer.
Could have been sleep. You probably was asleep. You probably wasn't. But the blanket was over your head most of the night.
Why are you gonna impeach him on whether or not you were actually sleeping versus pretending to be sleeping? That's not gonna be as effective as you think it is, moron.
And do you recall why the suspect was not allowed a phone call?
Because it's completely inappropriate under these
I was
circumstances.
told that you had to wait for Detective Jay Carpenter to talk to you.
Do you know if that's standard practice?
Doesn't matter. This isn't a standard.
Not sure if it's standard practice or not. but
This is
just
an
following
extraordinary
instructions
case. It's not a
as if-
standard case,
because he was
you
going to be
idiot.
doing some investigation.
Would you say it's fair to say that usually a suspect being detained is allowed a phone call? at
Usually a
some point?
suspect doesn't run over
Relevance.
7 people.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Why do you believe it's relevant?
Why would
Why wouldn't it?
uh,
That's a bad answer.
contacts
She's-
in the outside world be restricted?
That's not why it's relevant.
I'll rule that it's not relevant. Sustain
Thank
the
you.
objection. Next question.
That wasn't an explanation on why it was relevant, idiot. You love being argumentative and you're gonna lose the case because of your fucking ego. Pathetic. Oh, you're gonna lose the case regardless. You're definitely not helping.
Do you recall what time you got to, I think it was you said, the hospital to pick up the suspect?
Yes, I left at 12:10. I got to the hospital around 12:18.
Hospital?
To the best of your recollection, do you recall being given any information at that time about the suspect being questioned?
I don't recall if I was given any information on you being questioned at that time.
What does it matter? Why does any of this matter? Are his witnesses gonna be character witnesses? Saying that he would never do such a thing? That's gonna be pretty hilarious, because I don't know what kind of witnesses he can bring to help his case. Because he doesn't really have a case. So far, the only thing he's been arguing is sovereign citizen,
And you referred to
lack of jurisdiction.
a police hold room inside of the hospital?
That's correct.
So it's not unusual for someone to be detained in the police hold room inside of the hospital.
That's correct.
That's what
There's
it's
an active
for.
investigation going on.
So would that be the only time if during an active investigation?
Usually, someone from the outside come into the police hold room. Yes. for
What does
an
any of
active
this matter? None of this is pertinent to whether or not you're guilty.
And do you recall where in the hospital this police hold room is located?
Why is this relevant?
In the hospital.
Do you recall
Good
where
answer.
in the hospital is located?
No.
It's usually by where the police officers park their vehicles through the ambulance bay, straight ahead, and it's the second to last door on the right.
Oh, they took him to the hospital because they didn't have holding cells? Because he was uninjured.
To the
at
best of
time.
your knowledge, do you know if those police hold rooms have cameras?
What does it matter?
I'm not sure.
I hope they do.
Before that particular incident, had you ever been in the police hold room in that hospital?
Yep. Yes.
What does
sorry.
it matter? I mean, the only reason he's going through it is because his lawyers brought it up, but they have so many notes that we're probably never gonna bring up or raise because it doesn't really matter for anything. But he's just going through every single piece of paper that his former attorneys left him.
And you stated that detectives informed you that they would need to speak with the detainee before any phone calls would be made.
That's correct.
Even if it was his own decision, what does it matter to whether or not you're guilty? If you were afforded a
To the
phone
best
call
of
or
your
not.
recollection, did they explain why to you?
Objection relevant.
Right.
I hope. First of all, that is hearsay, but I really hope that he answers, and that his answer would be, what they told me was, this guy's a fucking asshole. He's a terrible person. He's a vile murderer. He slaughtered children. He's a monster. And we should never let him have his phone call because fuck this guy. He's a fucking douchebag. I hope he rots in hell. Now, none of this would ever be allowed in court, but he's now asking him what the reasoning behind all of what other people's decision was. So he's basically opening the door to whatever nasty thing the officers said about him. This guy's a moron.
Calls for speculation.
Grounds.
I'm sorry, calls for hearsay
Grounds.
Hearsay.
and speculation.
Are you offering it for the truth of the matter,
Yep.
sort of? Then it's hearsay and it's...
Yup. He's proudly saying, yup, I am. He didn't learn. He already did this exact thing last time. She said, is it offered for the truth of the matter? Yes. Then it's hearsay. Okay, if I was him, who keeps lying nonstop and trying to be manipulative, I would learn that, okay, last time I answered yes, the judge said, okay, that means that it's hearsay. So I would learn my lesson, and next time I would answer no. I don't even have to know what hearsay means. All I have to know is I should give a different answer the next time around. Oof. Oh, this guy's a clown.
And the detainee was turned over to an Officer Paulson after, I'm guessing at the end of your shift.
That's correct.
Do you recall if the cell the detainee was sleeping in that night had cameras?
He answered that already.
I'm not sure.
And he answered in that exact way.
Did the booking process at the Muskego Police Department? Booking process at the... Do you recall who did the booking process at the Muskego Police Department?
Yes, I believe it was Lieutenant Andrika and Officer Klink of the Muskego Police Department.
To the best of your recollection, do you recall why one of those officers weren't doing the well-being checks?
What is it?
because you were in our custody.
Oh my god, this guy is ridiculous. Why are you asking random questions?
Report. Do you recall when you did your report? The date of it?
I don't recall the exact day I did my report.
Is he gonna
Was it
try
that
to
same evening or was
elicit
it
hearsay from his
sometime
report
after?
again?
When you say the same evening, what date are you
The
talking?
the same evening or morning that you ended up having to do the well-being checks at the Muskego Police Department.
I don't recall if I did it that day, but it most definitely was done shortly after.
Shortly after, meaning a few days or a week or so.
He just said he
Few
doesn't
days.
recall, you moron.
You don't recall if it was the 29th of November of 2021?
I don't recall.
When you were dispatched to the Waukesha Memorial Hospital, did you observe any FBI agents at the scene?
How can you observe an FBI agent?
At the scene of the hospital?
Yes.
No.
Like, unless they're in full FBI attire.
So to the best of your recollection, it was only the two detectives that you made contact with.
Yes.
Was the FBI involved?
Can you explain what the mobile audio video recording system is?
Is
Body cams?
It's an in-squad camera that records outside of the squad car, so like in front of the
Okay.
squad car in the prisoner compartment. And it's a microphone that we put to our vest or on our person to record audio statements.
So it records and it's video and audio.
Correct.
Separately, yeah.
Did it record the detainee during your transport?
Yes, it did.
Besides the statements that you made reference to, did you observe or hear anything other
Hearsay.
than those statements?
Unless he's asking what he
What do you
heard
mean?
from
Can you
Darrell.
clarify that for me?
Did you observe anything strange or while the recording was taking place?
Is he trying to find out if the
I don't know what you mean by strange.
cam caught him masturbating in the
Did you
police
notice
car?
any strange movements by the detainee? Anything that would alarm you in any way?
Nothing that would alarm me, no.
What were you doing? Fisting yourself? What? What do you mean, bro? mean, trying to leave the jury with an inference. I'm not sure what it is.
Did you know the extent of the investigation at the time you were dispatched to Waukesha Memorial?
No, my only task was to transport you to the Muskego Police Department.
Again, why would it be relevant to what extent the officers knew about the extent of the investigation? He keeps asking all of them this question, and I don't know where he thinks that's gonna help him in any way.
No further questions.
Oh God, no sovereign citizenship again.
Nothing else. Thank you, Judge.
Right, thank you. You may step down.
God, we're saved by
Go ahead and
his
call your next witness then, please.
being so incompetent that he can't
Carpenter.
even remember that he's supposed to do a litany of sovereign citizen arguments at the end of every witness. Can you identify the plaintiff in this matter? Have any had any contact with the plaintiff in this matter? Had any phone calls with the plaintiff in this matter? I think at this point I could basically make all of his arguments for him. Like full NPC mode. I don't even need to know what the facts are, what any of his notes say. I could just
Good
be him
afternoon,
on
Detective
automatic.
Carpenter, if you would please make your way to the witness stand, which is to my right. It is up one riser. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand, and my clerk, Teresa, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat.
This guy looks savage.
The first thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
Sure. My name is Detective Jay Carpenter. First name spelled Jay.
Oh, okay. Earlier I was confused. I asked Detective Carpenter because there was a police officer that pulled a gun on Darrell, also named Carpenter, and I thought that I might have not heard her being referred to as detective, but apparently no. This is Detective Carter, a completely different person.
Last name spelled Carpenter.
Go ahead.
Sir, how are you employed?
I am employed as a detective with the City of Waukesha Police Department.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
18 years?
Have all those years been with the City of Waukesha Police Department?
Yes.
How long have you been detective?
Almost 5 years.
Direct your attention to November 21st of last year. Were you working on that day?
Yes, I was.
Were you working the parade?
I had actually been part of the parade. I marched in the parade as part of our Honor Guard unit and had completed my duty before the incident commenced.
Wow.
So this is
that's
the City of
interesting.
Waukesha annual holiday parade.
Correct.
And you say that after you finished the parade route, where did you go?
So I went back to the City of Waukesha Police Department after I completed my part of the parade.
So many of the
And
cops
did
were
you
involved in
receive
this parade.
information while you're at the City of Waukesha Police Department regarding something that had happened at the parade?
Objection leading.
That might have been a bit leading.
I did. I changed out of my Honor Guard uniform and I was confronted by Officer Daniel Malo. He was working as a desk officer for the department that day. Officer Malo explained that a vehicle had driven through the parade route down in downtown Waukesha, that there were approximately 30 to 40 people down, many severely injured, some possibly deceased, and that there was also an officer shooting involved in the whole event.
What did you do as a result of receiving that information?
At that point, I went on duty and began heading towards the downtown area.
Where did you go specifically?
So when I headed out, there was a lot of radio traffic. It was very chaotic, very confusing. It was certainly like nothing I've ever experienced
Imagine the
before,
chaos on the radio
as
at
far
that
as
time.
the radio traffic. The event kind of began to mold into two different forms at that point, in that there were numerous officers calling for ambulances in the downtown area for the injured, but dispatch was also beginning to provide information that there was an individual in the area of the 500 block of Elizabeth Street, which is about a quarter of a mile off the parade route, that was loitering, and it was believed that may be the suspect, so I headed in that direction.
Now, prior to heading in that direction, did you have any information as to why this person in that area would be a suspect?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, ma'am. A description had been provided of a possible suspect, and the descriptions being provided by the dispatch of the individual now in this area were comparable, nearly identical to the descriptions I was hearing of the driver from the parade incident.
Everybody described them pretty much spot on.
As I was searching the area, I heard over the police radio that officers from a separate jurisdiction had come in contact with the suspect and that he was in custody. I proceeded over to Elizabeth Street, where the suspect, who was identified in the investigation as Darrell Brooks, was already in custody.
Okay. Now, you stated that the information that you initially received with regard to the person involved's physical description, do you recall what that was?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Information that I heard over police radio was an African-American male, blue jeans, and a red t-shirt.
So what did you do after receiving this information about a potential person in custody?
I responded to the immediate area. Mr. Brooks at that point was already in custody. I don't recall if he was outside a squad being searched, but he was handcuffed and already effectively in custody at that point. He was placed in the rear of a city Waukesha police car, where he was taken into custody for loitering, as well as being a suspect at that point as the operator of the vehicle that went through the parade route.
Objection, I don't consent to being called that name for the record.
Judge, shut him down. Come on now.
Your answer
Stop
stands.
it, Judge.
Go
You
ahead.
have to.
Next question.
At the time that you made contact with this individual, did you have any information about the vehicle that had been used during the parade?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Yes, a red SUV. That was actually a red Ford Escape, specifically.
And did you have any information if that car had been located at the time that you went to the Elizabeth Street address?
Yes, it had already been located.
Did you have any information about that red SUV prior to going to Elizabeth Street?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
The information I recall having is that the vehicle was parked over on Maple Avenue, which is about 2.5 to 3 blocks west of Elizabeth Street, where Mr. Brooks was located and taken into custody.
Objection, I don't consent to being called that name.
Judge,
Overruled.
come on. It's about
Did
time
you have
to
the
shut it
opportunity
down.
to speak with an individual who was identified as Darrell Brooks at
Objection,
that
I don't
Elizabeth Street
consent to being
address?
called that name.
Judge, you have to reprimand him for interrupting.
I don't believe I spoke with him at that address, but Mr. Brooks was transported to our substation located on Les Paul Parkway in the city of Waukesha, where I had opportunity to speak with him.
Did you see him at the Elizabeth Street address?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you see him in the court today?
I do.
I'd ask the court to ask Mr. Brooks to remove his mask.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Can you identify him by where he's seated and what he's wearing?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Brooks is seated to my left, wearing a dark-colored
Just points.
suit jacket, multicolored tie, surgical mask on his face, shaved head, and he did have a beard at the time he took his mask off.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
You call that a
It
beard?
will reflect. Thank you.
Sir, as you see Mr. Brooks today, does he look different than he did on November 21st of last year?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, ma'am.
How?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Leading and
At the
relevancy
time of the
are
at the time of
basically
the incident, Mr.
default
Brooks
objections
had
for him.
longer hair, a braided style hair that probably went midway down his back.
It wasn't braided, it was dreadlocks.
How about facial wise?
He had a beard at that time, but it's a little bit shorter now. It was a little bit thicker and longer at the time.
So you stated that the defendant was transported to a substation?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. And do you recall who transported him?
Specialist Mark Howard.
I will be right back.
Did you follow Specialist Howard to the substation?
Yes, I did.
Upon either, should I say, at the scene, did you obtain items that were located on the defendant's person?
Yes, I did.
What did they consist of?
A sandwich.
So the items I received that were on Mr. Brooks' person at the time of his arrest, there were several items. One of them was a Wisconsin photo identification card.
Come on, bring up the
So it had a
sandwich.
picture on the ID card that I recognized
What
as
sandwich
being Mr.
was
Brooks
it?
based on the fact I was with him at this time. The name on that identification card was Darrell Edward Brooks Jr., his date of birth being February 21st, 1982. There was also a
Oh, he's 3 years older than me.
green Wisconsin Quest card with Mr. Brooks' name on it, a silver American Express debit or credit card with Mr. Brooks' name on it, 2 Visa debit cards, one black, one white, both
we
which
had a
had Mr.
lot
Brooks'
of
name on
cards.
it. And then there was a Georgia EBT card which had the name of Mr. Brooks'
3
girlfriend.
credit cards and an EBT.
Other than
Interesting.
the identifying information that you just testified to, is anything else turned over to you that was removed from Darrell Brooks?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name in his
That's
sleep.
not a proper objection.
You may answer.
Yes, ma'am. There was $4 cash, but also a Ford ignition key.
And a sandwich in his pocket.
Now, you stated that there was a suspect vehicle that had been located.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any information prior to your discussions with the defendant about who the owner of that vehicle was?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, I did.
And who was the owner of that vehicle?
Darrell Brooks.
A
Oh,
female
no,
by
not
the
Darrell
name
Brooks.
of Dawn Woods.
And do you recall what her address was?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled.
It's relevant,
The
you
witness may answer.
moron.
4014 North 19th Street in the city of Milwaukee.
Wow, you remember
So
really
19th
well.
Street, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Objection. Leading witness.
Overruled. The answer may stand.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 172. That's going to appear on the screen in front of you. Before we do that, these identifiers that you located for Darrell Brooks, did you take a picture of them?
Yes, ma'am.
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Judge,
Time.
he keeps interrupting them. You have to do something about this. Stop, Judge. You have
Let me know
to.
when you see something in your
I see it.
Okay. Do you recognize these items as those items
Oh
you
my
just
God, this
described
judge
as
is
having
pathetic.
been removed from the defendant's person?
Yes, I do.
I'd ask the court to admit this exhibit into evidence and to publish it for the jury.
Objection. Relevancy.
Objection is overruled. Exhibit 172 is received. Permission to publish is granted.
$4.
If you can specifically zoom in on the Wisconsin ID card. The address on that Wisconsin identification card, is that the same address
I do not
that you
consent to this
recited
ID
for
card.
Don Woods?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Wait, okay. So he's 5'8". A previous witness said that he described him as 5'9" and 160 pounds. His ID says 5'8", 140 pounds. That guy was so fucking spot on. Almost a 20 pound difference is extremely on point. And Darrell confronted him as if, what, do I look like I'm 5'9"? Bitch, you're 5'8". Oh my god, that's hilarious.
And what was the date that that
Eyes, bro. Hair, bro.
card was issued?
Objection relevancy.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
It's completely irrelevant what
June
the details
14th,
are
2021.
of his ID.
And the picture on the identification card, would that be consistent or inconsistent with what the defendant looked like on November 21st of last year?
Objection leading.
Actually, yeah, he has his dreads and beard in the picture.
Almost exactly what he looks like.
So, from everything so far, what do you guys think? Is Darrell gonna argue that the person in the vehicle was not him? It was just somebody who looked exactly like he would have looked if he had dreads and a beard, but clearly he doesn't have dreads, doesn't have a beard, and he objects to the name Darrell Brooks, so how could it possibly be him?
Now, as you were at the
I literally think that's a strategy.
substation, what did you do that can be removed? I'm sorry.
I can't wait for the closing arguments. It's gonna be hilarious.
For the most part, what we were doing down there is obtaining basic booking information. So I confirmed Mr. Brooks' first name, middle name, last name, date of birth. I obtained an emergency contact for him, phone numbers, whether he was working or not, going to school. Obtained information about his tattoos, piercings.
Was he
things of
was
that
he going
nature.
to school?
Personal identification.
Was he
information.
employed? I want to know.
And who did he say his emergency contact was?
His mommy?
Objection relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer.
Mr. Brooks indicated his
Mommy.
emergency contact person was Don Woods.
Oh,
What
really?
relationship was Don Woods to him?
His
Objection
mommy's
relevancy.
baby daddy,
Overruled. You may
boyfriend?
answer.
It is Mr. Brooks' mother.
Oh, Dawn
And
is a
did you
woman's
subsequently
name.
obtain a phone number for Don Woods?
I did.
Objection
My bad.
relevancy.
My bad. I
Overruled.
was
The witness may
assuming.
answer.
What is that phone number, if you recall?
So it was his mom's car,
Objection
or the car
relevancy.
was registered to his mom.
414-610-2153.
Now, when you asked the defendant for his name, what did he tell you his name was?
Objection relevancy.
Overruled.
Darrell Brooks.
I believe he indicated it was Darrell, D-A-R-R-E-L-L.
That doesn't matter.
And speaking with him, and I can confirm, seeing him today, Darrell Brooks or Darrell Brooks are one and the same. They're
Yes.
the same person.
You can't pull off those shenanigans and not even
Did you
change
become
how your name
aware
is
of
spelled, you
any-
moron.
Video evidence?
Wait, so the theory evolves. Now it couldn't have been me because the person in the vehicle was Darrell Brooks, but my name is Darrell Brooks. We just happen to look the same, identical, except that he has dreads and a beard and I don't have dreads and a beard, so it can't possibly be me. Also, I'm wearing sneakers right now or shoes with a huge sole to make me a few inches taller so that I couldn't look 5'8" like I am truly in reality. So it can't be me because I'm wearing sneakers right now.
That was collected in the downtown area during the parade, capturing a picture of the person who drove the red SUV through the parade.
Objection leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And you said you saw that?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to ask that Exhibit 120, which has been previously admitted into evidence, be published for the jury.
Go ahead.
Is that the photographic evidence that you had just testified to?
Objection.
Overruled.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And do you recall approximately, was this the car being driven
What are these
while
weird
the parade-
watermarks on the photos?
in the midst of the parade, after the parade, or before the parade, if you know?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled.
So the photo we're looking at right here is right in the middle of the parade. So right now, the vehicle is within the parade route while the parade is ongoing.
And were you able to positively identify the driver of that vehicle?
Yes, ma'am, I
Objection.
was.
Hearsay.
Who
Overruled.
was
Were
the
you-
driver of that
We're
vehicle?
able to identify him.
The driver of the
Hearsay.
vehicle is Darrell
Retard.
Brooks.
Thank you. Approximately how long?
Are you done
were-
with this exhibit? I'm
I
sorry.
am, yes.
Thank you.
How long were you at the substation?
Probably about 2 to 2.5 hours.
Why were you there versus anywhere else?
He was
So
participating.
at this particular time, the department was in a transition. Our original building was under construction.
Oh,
The building we were primarily working out of did not have a booking room, did not have a place to take prisoners, so we had to go down to the substation instead of our own actual police department.
Other than collecting the information that you had previously told us about, including emergency contact information, name, things like that, what else were you doing at the substation?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Mainly at that time, just waiting for further information as to what was going to be done next. Like I say, the scene was very, very chaotic. I know there were so many victims out there, they didn't even have enough ambulances to transport them all.
Jesus
So officers,
Christ.
it took, I feel like probably hours to really get it under control. So I was just waiting on more information from Detective Casey, who had been assigned as lead to determine what steps would be appropriate next. Is just being there with Mr. Brooks and making sure he was safe and remained in custody. I didn't have a real good idea due to the chaos of what was going on away from where I was.
Now, you had testified about some of the property that was recovered from the defendant, and you stated that one of the items was a card in the name of Erica Patterson. Do you recall that?
Objection. He did not say who was in the name of.
Sustained. Please rephrase.
Actually, if we can pull up Exhibit 172 again.
Objection. Hearsay.
Nope.
There's no question yet, but
And if you
So-
can zoom in on the Georgia EBT card. Whose name is on that card?
Erica
Objection.
Patterson.
Leading.
overruled. Go ahead. You can answer that again.
Erica Patterson.
Did you, at the time that you were at the substation, have any information regarding an Erica Patterson and her relationship to Darrell Brooks?
Objection. That.
Oh, he had his ex-girlfriend's EBT.
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
Objection is hearsay.
Overruled.
Not at that time, no.
Did you later learn of a
The judge shouldn't allow him to have a second shot at objections. Instead, she should tell him there was no pending question to the second objection, sir.
relationship between the defendant and Erica Patterson?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled.
Yes, I did.
And what was that relationship?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
Ms. Patterson was a significant other or girlfriend to Mr. Brooks and mother of one
Baby
of his
mama.
children.
Objection. Not girlfriend.
That's not a proper objection.
The jury will disregard that last.
Okay, you're doing it now, but not about all those continuous times that he said his name, that he objected because he doesn't identify with that name. Come on, judge, you could do better.
Statement as Mr. Brooks is not testifying at the moment.
He wasn't testifying. Again.
Now, when you made contact with Darrell Brooks or while you're making contact with Darrell Brooks at the substation, did he complain of any injuries?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name. I
Overruled.
think
You
the
may answer.
prosecution is trying to be funny at this point.
Argumentative.
Yes, ma'am, he did. He
Hold on,
com-
Are you going to reprimand him?
I didn't hear the last thing, but I believe it was commentary. So just state your objection and I'll rule on it. It's been overruled. You may answer.
Judge.
Yes,
Less
ma'am,
mercy.
he did. He complained of 2 injuries, one to his knee, but primarily and mostly of an injury to what was his right shoulder.
All made up,
Did
probably.
he say how that occurred?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Yes, he did. Mr. Brooks told us that his shoulder was injured when he was arrested, indicating the
The reason hearsay, actually, it would have been hearsay if it wasn't his own statements.
arresting officers slammed him to the ground.
Did you have the opportunity at any point in this investigation to review body camera footage from Officer Rebecca Carpenter?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was at the residence where the defendant was taken into custody?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Did you see any unlawful use of force on the defendant during that time?
No.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
No, ma'am. In fact, there was no force used at all. Mr. Brooks was given verbal directions by officers to get down onto the ground, and he did so entirely on his own power.
Yep. Credit.
Based upon
when
his
credit's due.
complaints, however, was the decision made to transport him for medical clearance?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did you transport?
Such a waste of time.
Waukesha Memorial Hospital.
That probably was the beginning of his delay tactics that lasted from when he murdered all those people till now.
Do you know approximately what time you arrived there?
I believe, I don't remember the exact time. It was sometime, I believe it was between about 8 and 9 p.m.
Upon entering, who was with you and Mr. Brooks?
Objection, I don't consent to being called that name. It's legal.
Judge, intervene, come on.
Overruled as to both. You may answer.
Detective Ben Stern.
Okay. Was he partnering with you in this part of the investigation?
Yes, ma'am, he was.
Okay. And when you entered the hospital, what observations, if any, did you make?
Entering the hospital, we escorted Mr. Brooks, to a room so that he could receive medical clearance. I know there were some individuals from the parade that were injured in nearby rooms. I didn't really see many of them, but I knew they were close by. So we escorted Mr. Brooks into a room, trying to keep away from the victims so as to not make the incident any more tension-filled than it already was.
How busy was it at the hospital when you brought Mr. Brooks in?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Extremely. There were victims due to the mass amount of casualties, many of which, survived but still needed extensive medical attention. It was very busy. Many of the victims were taken to alternate hospitals because Waukesha Memorial could not handle the amount of patients that were coming in.
This guy has no guilty conscience about what he's done. It's infuriating.
Now, approximately how long did you spend with Mr. Brooks at Waukesha Memorial Hospital?
Objection, I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled.
Probably about 4 hours.
Is that in addition to the time that you would have spent with him at the substation?
Yes, ma'am.
Leading.
Overruled.
What was his demeanor?
Extremely calm. If I would describe it, I guess, to put it in context for the court, very similar to mine right now. The conversations I had with him, as far as getting his identification info and such, he talked to me as calmly as I'm speaking now. Based on his body language, his tone of voice, his attitude.
That just goes to show what a psychopath this guy is.
You'd have never known he had done something or was in custody for having done something so serious.
Jesus
Did he
Christ.
ask you why he was in custody at the substation?
He probably
Yes.
asked them all the
And what
time.
did you tell him?
At that point, I simply told Mr. Brooks it was a loitering investigation and possible disorderly conduct.
Now, you just testified that he was a suspect in the parade mass casualty incident. Why didn't you tell him that?
Why would he tell him that?
At that time, I didn't want to
Oh, he looks super
make
interested.
Mr. Brooks one, overly anxious. Two, there was a lot of information. Initially, I still didn't know. It was initially, as part of the chaos, I believe at one point we were actually looking for as many as four people. So I didn't know how deeply he was or was not involved. It was believed that and known that he was somehow involved and knew something. So before I even addressed those issues, one, I wanted to make sure I knew all the facts and had as much information as I could.
You could have given a much shorter answer. What you could have said is, those were the charges that we were confident that we could have actually held him on at the time until more information came in.
More than anything for the integrity of the case.
When you talk about the integrity of the case and your discussions with him, did the defendant appear to know what was going on around him? When I say that, I guess, was he aware of where he was, who you were, things like that?
Objection, speculative.
No.
As to the way it was rephrased in the second half of that, I will allow it. You may answer.
Yes, he did. He seemed, he was alert. When asked questions, like, for example, his about phone number, his emergency contact, the answers were consistent with the question asked. He did not have slurred speech. He did not show any signs of being under the influence or in mental crisis.
Did your opinion change at any time while you were with him on November 21st?
Objection, vague.
That wasn't vague at all.
Overruled. You may answer.
No, it did not.
Now, during the 4 hours that you were at the hospital, were you, do you continue to complain about shoulder pain?
Yes, he did.
Were his actions always consistent with his expression of the pain in the shoulder?
Objection, speculative.
It's not speculative. He saw you, asshole.
Overruled. You may answer.
No, they were not.
Can you describe for the jury what you mean by that?
He forgot that he has to keep pretending
Speculative.
to have
How
a...
can he know how somebody's...
What you mean by that?
Objection, speculative. How can he know how somebody's body is feeling?
That's not what he was asked.
Overruled. He may answer, given as long as he answers with his understanding. Or what he saw.
Observations is what I was saying.
Observation.
Yes.
Thank you. I think that's what you said. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So Mr. Brooks, when he would speak to me throughout the evening,
Probably used a lot
he
of
would move
really
his arms
heavy
about,
gestures.
He'd put them out to his side, he'd
What
move
a
them back
moron.
and forth, he'd raise them up and down. He was talking about being in severe pain, but I would describe
forgot that he
the way
has to
moved his
pretend.
arms and such as basic body mannerisms and basic interpersonal interactions.
Oh my
His hands, his
God.
arms, everything moved completely normally when we would speak. There was no favoring of that shoulder or anything to indicate, other than what he was saying through physical action, that there was any type of injury there that I observed.
He's like the antithesis of an evil mastermind. Not a good mastermind, but an evil dumbass with literally negative IQ. If that could ever be a thing. He's trying to gain control over the situation and assert dominance over the entire procedure, but it just ends up biting him in the ass because he's literally incompetent.
Now, at some point, I strike that. During this time that you were with him and he was getting medically cleared, first of all, did he get medically cleared?
Yes, he did.
Objection, speculative.
That's not
He didn't
speculative at
need-
all.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Overruled. His answer may stand.
Did he need any treatment while at the hospital?
No, we did not.
No, he was checked out. The doctor came in and looked at his shoulder. I do not believe
The doctor said, "Bro, you're faking it. Come on, dude. We all know you're lying. Stop lying."
any medications were given. There may have been, I believe they took an x-ray to check it, but he was ultimately cleared and turned over to police custody.
Delay tactics. It's
And during the time
obvious.
that you were with him while he was getting medically cleared, what type of conversation were you having? Was it general conversation, or were you talking to him about the loitering?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer.
If I were the prosecution, I would bring up
The
these delay
conversation
tactics
was
heavily in my
general.
closing arguments.
Mr. Brooks asked several times if I would give him more information as to why he was in custody, and I would continue to tell him it was for the loitering violation. But the conversations were mostly, we talked about sports, The Green Bay Packers had played that day. We talked about the game.
That's an indication that he's guilty, by the way, because he's trying to keep his mind on other things so as to not fall into the pattern of thinking about what he's done in a way that would give away his actual emotions at the time, because he's a psychopath.
I remember him telling me that baseball was his favorite sport. And things
Probably
of that
lied
nature.
about that
He
too.
was upset that the Packers had lost the game. So it was basically, it was general conversation, not related to why he was specifically in custody.
At some
He
point,
knew.
did you decide that you were going to try to talk to the defendant about at least the loitering incident?
I hope so. He's
Yes,
a
ma'am, I
detective.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Do you know approximately what time that took place?
11:04 p.m.
And how did you approach this interview?
Now
You've
this
now
is
been with
now
Mr. Brooks
this is
for,
going to be interesting.
maybe 5 hours, would that be fair?
Yes.
How did you decide to approach this interview with him?
Is that available? Is the interview with Darrell available online? I bet it's going to be after the trial.
Objection, leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
I just explained to Mr. Brooks that I simply wanted to speak with him about why he was in the neighborhood where he was discovered that night, what was going on, what led to him being there.
What led to him murdering all those
And
people?
that I was just looking to have answers to that if he was willing to provide them.
And was Mr. Brooks in a room that had the ability to record the conversation that you had with him?
Objection, I don't consent to being called on that.
Overruled, you may answer.
No, not in the manner we would if we were at our typical police departments. Our police department would have a camera mounted in the corner that would record audio and video. They did have a security camera, but it had no audio capability.
So what did you do?
I utilized my department-issued phone and recorded the audio of the interview that way.
So you had the audio on your phone and the visual, or there was a visual recording. Is that true?
Yes, so the audio was on my phone, and then the visual recording was through the hospital security system.
Bless you. So they didn't marry up with one another, correct? I mean,
No.
in terms of, I should strike that. You couldn't play the audio with the visual.
You could.
They're
All
two
you-
different recordings.
All you have to do is just
Yes.
make a clap and then sync the audio to when you're doing the action.
Who else was with you during this interview?
At that time, Detective Ben Stern from my department was with me, as well as 2 federal agents from the FBI, Agent
Oh,
Mary
FBI was
Davidson
involved
and Agent Jeremy, I believe it's Pilichowski.
Why were they there?
So the FBI came involved in the investigation early on because we were not certain at that point whether or not this was a terrorist incident.
The FBI probably saw it couldn't be tied
So
to
how
Trump
did it work?
and
Were
left.
they in the room and then Mr. Brooks was brought into the room, or how did that work?
Objection, I don't consent to being called that name and is leading the witness.
Overruled as to the name, sustained as to the form of the question.
How did you all get into the same room?
So I was in the room waiting for Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks was brought from another room by Detective Stern. At this point, the audio recording on my phone was already running. I believe the 2 FBI agents were with me in the room, and then, like I say, Mr. Brooks was escorted in by Detective Stern.
Did you introduce yourselves? Well, you had been with Mr. Brooks previously, correct?
Objection.
Yes, I had.
You can't even fucking
Overruled,
formalize
you
your.
may answer.
Yes, I had.
Okay. Had he been introduced to Detective Stern already?
Yes, he had.
Okay. And how about the 2 FBI agents?
It was at that point that they introduced themselves to Mr. Brooks.
What was his reaction to that when they introduced themselves?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled, you may answer.
Very surprised. He said the word FBI, in the form of a question. I could tell his tone was very surprised. It wasn't as calm as he had been.
Bro, you
He
murdered
seemed
6
concerned,
people at least.
uneasy, and within about a minute after stating that, he questioned the agents further as to whether they were really FBI agents, and he was surprised to see them there,
What
and he
a
had never
clown.
actually seen an FBI agent before, so he was definitely surprised, and I could tell he was
Impressed?
uncomfortable.
Did you record the entire conversation you had with the defendant?
Yes, at that point, all that is on recording. At that point, yes.
And have you had the opportunity to review that recording prior to today's date?
I have.
I would like to admit Exhibit 81 for the
Objection.
court. It is the audio interview of the defendant.
He will have no
That took place on
proper
November
basis
21st,
for his objection,
2021.
for sure.
It's previously been addressed by this court.
Objection.
Remind me how long it is again.
Your Honor, the entire video is 25 minutes approximately. I'm asking to play from 4 minutes and 25 seconds to 14 minutes and 25 seconds approximately. Well, it would be 10 minutes.
I presume you'll have questions regarding that once you play it.
Correct.
All right, given that it's just before 5 o'clock, I'm gonna stop for the day. We can pick up with this
Okay.
tomorrow. You can put it down for the moment, and I will
We're
have our
done.
instruction for the jurors.
We're done unless there's day 9 already out. But I doubt it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, do not begin your deliberations and discussion of this case until all the evidence is presented and I have instructed you on the law. Do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else until your final deliberations, in the jury room. This order is not limited to face-to-face conversations. It also extends to all forms of electronic communications. Do not use any electronic devices such as a mobile phone or computer, text or instant messaging or social networking sites to send or receive any information about this case or your experience as a juror. If you come in contact with the parties, lawyers, interpreters, or witnesses, do not speak with them.
What
For
about
their
the
part,
media?
The parties, lawyers, interpreters, and witnesses will not contact or speak with the jurors. Do not listen to any conversation about this case. Do not research any information that you personally think might be helpful to you in understanding the issues presented. Do not investigate this case on your own or visit the scene either in person or by any electronic means. Do not read any newspaper reports or listen to any news reports on radio, television, over the internet, or any other electronic application or tool about this trial. Do not consult dictionaries, computers, electronic applications, social media, the internet, or other reference materials for additional information. Do not seek information regarding the public records of any party or witness in this case. Any information you obtain outside the courtroom could be misleading, inaccurate, or incomplete. Relying on this information is uncorrected. Device and are serving on this jury or any post on or off either your when you not and it is in a new trial. As for the, you are to decide the case solely on the evidence offered and received at trial. With that, you are excused for the evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning. All rise for the jurors, please.
What is he doing?
Jurors, please. With that, you are excused for the evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning. All rise for the jurors, please.
What's he doing? What is he tearing apart? Just a police report? Piece, like, part of his... It will be hilarious if what he just tore up now, he's gonna need that information later on and he's not gonna have it, and then he's gonna complain about not having it, and then it's gonna be explained to him that he just tore it now and that's why he doesn't have it. Oh, look at his face. What the hell? That is the face of somebody who's feeling super entitled right now. And arrogance incarnate.
I'm printing out a draft of preliminary, you can be seated, in jury instruction 60, which concerns use of an interpreter for a witness. I have a question about that second paragraph, which relates to whether the witness knows some English or not, and so we'll review that tomorrow morning first thing, but it'll be provided to the parties, so you have that to look at this evening. With that, I'll see everyone tomorrow at 8:30. Thank you.
And we're done. GG. Yep. Let's see, anything else? Yep, I guess that's it. So I will probably, or at least I'll try to do the same thing for day 9. See you till then. Bye, guys.